was the preservation of the independent provider mode. It was improving the work for the workers, improving the job for the workers, and improving the quality of care for the consumers. So in order for people around the country to look at this program and to see what we had done, I wrote this, and basically it's an interview process where I talk to consumers, talk to workers, talk to county board social services people, and talk to Board of Supervisor staff people and Board of Supervisor members to say, what was that process like for you? How did you decide that you were going to work with these other people? What kind of problems did you run into? What were the good things about it? What were the bad things about it? And it was a really, really, really interesting, fascinating, wonderful process. And so if you get a chance to look at that, you should, because it tells you a lot about who we are. A lot of people have been here since the beginning, and then new people come in every year because some boards of the public authorities have term limits and some don't, and so there is some turnover, but I think it's important for all of us to remember the history. I think I'll stop. I have no idea how I'm doing on time. I'm over. Okay, sorry about that. I was actually going to say it. Does anybody have any questions for Mark or for me, Jamie? Okay, so if anybody has any questions, can you step up? Yeah.
I am Jacqueline, but my question is specifically about what you were talking about, the history. Is that in this book? I'm visually impaired, so can you just reference page numbers when you speak?
Okay, so you have two books. One is a yellow one, which is the actual agenda. It's a spiral binder. And the other one is this Collaborating to Improve In-Home Supportive Services. And that actually is kind of a researchy kind of report that actually is on somebody's website and is, published by the Paraprofessional Healthcare Institute. Yeah. Which? Yeah, I don't know. I can check on the one from the Paraprofessional Healthcare Institute, Jacqueline. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so let me hand the...
Thanks, Janet. It's always nice to hear from somebody that's been there and done that, was in the trenches and fought so hard for all of us. I just wanted to go back a little bit. We were going to talk about a heartfelt discussion about advisory committee members, and this is kind of like talking to the choir because you're all here. But I'd like you to try, when you go back, to put a fire in the belly of your other advisory committee members, because when you commit to being an advisory committee member, you're taking a huge step. You're making a commitment to all those people in your county that cannot be there for themselves. And you're speaking for all those consumers and all those providers who are working so hard to keep this program a viable, valued program in your community. And it takes some work. You're not just there to take up a seat. You're not just there to have lunch if you're lucky enough to have lunch provided for you, or your cookies or your tea. It comes with a commitment on your part to educate yourselves, to become knowledgeable about what's going on, to continue to become knowledgeable. It's a stiff learning curve, and we understand that. That's why Usika's here, to help you learn with that curve. And throughout this conference, you'll learn of some other things that we're doing to help you improve that learning curve. But you have to be passionate about this too. And the passion is what gets you through. That passionate commitment to the consumer control piece that Janet was talking about. That is so vitally important. And so many people would love to take that away from us. We can't let that happen. It's a constant vigil fight. So, and you've got to get the other people in your advisory committee to understand that people do not want us to have IHSS. Look at the fight we've just gone through with Schwarzenegger and with the state. It has been a bloody battle, and it's not fun, and it's not over, guys. We're going to continue to fight that battle. So each and every one of the members on your advisory committee have got to make the commitment to fight that battle, to be involved, and you guys that are here have got to take that back to your committees to let them know. And if you've got guys on your committee that are just sitting there taking up space and you know they are not willing to get into that fight, it's your obligation to get them off and get somebody else in there that's going to fight with you. It's a battle, and we need each and every one of us. The next piece that I wanted to talk about, and it's going to be very, very brief, and both Mark and Janet alluded to it, was the independent living piece. And IHSS didn't come out of a vacuum. There was a big, huge independent living history movement that came before this. And it's been ranked with the whole disability, not disability, but the civil rights movement. Disability history is in congruence with the civil rights movement. And what it says, the philosophy is, nothing about us without us, that we have the right, those of us with disabilities, whether they be acquired or having been from birth, that we have the right to live in the community in the least restrictive environment, which comes back to Olmsted, but that we have our viable folks and that we have these inherent rights that are ours. And we fought, the disability history movement really started in the 50s and into the 60s, was coming very, very strong with Ed Roberts, whose name we just talked about at Berkeley. He and his Berkeley buddies were the ones that did the first independent living center up in Berkeley. And I'm not going to go on and on with this because it's a very long history, but a very, very vital, viable one that you guys need to know and understand because it is so fundamental to the in-home support services model of consumer control. And unfortunately, I wanted to have a whole lot of websites, but in your blue book, there's a thing about Disability History Week. I'm not quite sure where it is. Oh, here it is. Disability History Week, October 10th through 16th, and I want to really laud Yo Disabled and Proud, which is a sub-organization of California Foundation of Independent Living Centers. These are the youngsters coming up with disabilities, our young folks between 18 and 26 that are part of this organization. And they got Disability History Week through the legislature. Fran?
You said blue, but people are looking for the blue.
Oh, did I say blue? Yellow. Yeah, yellow. Blue and yellow, it's close. Thanks, Fran. Page 18? Okay, and also on this Disability History Week blurb is their website. And I would like you to go to www.yodisabledproud.org because on that website, they have links to a bunch of places where you can get information on disability history. And there's a little bit in the handouts we've included in your blue booklet on the history, but there's other articles that give you a lot more information. And I think that you would really benefit from those. My memory is so bad. I'll think about it and I'll throw out a book that I think you should all read if you have a chance on disability history. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Another place too is the CFILC website, and you can go there and get some links. As I said, I'm not going to go on and on about this because our agenda is very full. But I really think, in those quiet hours of the evening when you have nothing else to do, click on that website and just read an article or two because I think you'd really benefit from the information. Okay, moving on. Our next agenda item is a little history of AB 1682, and John Stansberry, consultant with SECA, is going to speak to that. This, we have it the right. Yeah. And, well, it's advisory committee and citizen governing board, nuts and bolts. Not the, no, not. Oh, yeah, AB 68. Just this is, it applies to governing and that kind of stuff.
Hi, I'm John Stansbury, and I want to tell you I was just so excited sitting in this chair here and seeing you all here, and what a wonderful turnout. There's a lot of people here who have been coming to these meetings for a long time, and thank you for your faithfulness, those of you who have been involved in this for as long as you have. For those of you who are new, I want to tell you that you have the privilege of doing something that not very many people in this world get to do. You know, when the Civil Rights Act was passed, the Voting Rights Act, nothing happened. They were just laws on the books, but they had to be enforced, and the enforcement had to develop, and they had to be brought into a living reality by people. Okay, so we have basically disability rights or civil rights. In fact, our AB 1682 and the things, the Americans with Disability Act came out of, yes, you have something?
Yeah, is that starting on page 22 in the yellow book?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to get there in just a second.
Okay.
But the Americans with Disability Act is a direct descendant of the Civil Rights Act. And so that kind of being personally empowered and taking some responsibility and stepping out there, even though maybe you don't really know as much as you think you should, and somebody else might be smarter than you or more articulate than you, as Mark was saying, stepping out there is something that you have an opportunity to do, and not very many people in this world have that opportunity. So what I'm going to talk about, I have actually, it's a PowerPoint prepared, but we don't have the PowerPoint up here. So if you can turn to page 22 in your yellow book. And for those of you who are sight impaired, I'm going to walk through these slides. These are the same slides that you see up on the screen. For those of you who are sight impaired, I'm going to read what's on there so that you can be part of it. And also you have it there so you can take it back and somebody can read it to you at any time so that you can relearn some of this. The first slide is AB 1682, the key points. So one of the things that happened, and you're all going to be, many of you are going to be surprised about this, is the actual intention of the legislature when AB 1682 was passed was that public authorities would be separate legal entities, separate from the county.